Hey everyone, Foxy here, and so is the dev update. Let's dive in.
With this update, we introduced the fix for the double gun issue, but we have seen that there is just certain circumstances where this can still occur. So we're working on a fix for that now, and that will be in our next update.
So I did share about a way to double gun faster, and there are some other ways that I've seen people randomly being able to switch weapons very quickly, even though it was intended to all be patched up by now. So that's going to be patched in the future. I can see that they really are doubling down on the double gun issue. Ba, ba, ba.
Alongside that, we obviously made a series of weapon balancing changes in this update, and because of the nature of a game like Sea of Thieves, where you really kind of need to see this play out over a little bit of time to see how people use the different weapons. We're looking at the feedback points and we're looking at the data to see the balance between all the weapons. So for the moment, we're just kind of watching and observing, and then we will continue to tune and improve and really just get that balance between all of the weapons as we want.
So he's like wondering about balance. What the balance right now actually is, after weeks of these weapon balance changes, Blunderbuss Sword has become meta. Because other weapons just, you can't quick shot them, so you have to scope in. Whereas with the Blunderbuss, you just click. And it's so much more reliable, it's so much faster. It does tons of damage when you're in close range. So Blunderbuss Sword is very meta right now. And I don't really see anyone running like pistol and sniper at all anymore. Only reason you would run it is when you're fighting skeletons and you need something range. But actually, surprisingly, you can blunderbuss a skelly with a keg and survive because the bullet speed is so much faster, you have just enough time to back out as you fire to be able to survive the explosion. Which I'm not sure if that was always the case because I never ran Blunderbuss, and whenever I would try, it seemed so impossible to trigger the keg that I just never bothered with it. But maybe it's always been there. But right now, for sure, you can even run Blunderbuss against kegged skellies. One of the big reasons that pistol was more popular than blunderbuss back in the very early days before there was a fuse for the keg was because you couldn't trigger the kegs without a long-range weapon. So you were kind of bullied that way into using a pistol if you wanted to pull off any kind of kegging maneuvers, and if you wanted to protect yourself from people trying to use kegs to explode your ship. The only way to keg a ship was to let a keg float from the bottom of the water up into a ship in order to explode it. So if you missed by a little inch when you did that, you had no way to trigger that keg anymore. But if you had a pistol, all you had to do was just shoot it then to make up for a small error or a small unlucky situation where maybe the ship turned and maybe it's a moving ship that you're trying to keg. Now that we have fuses, that's no longer really an issue. And now that the bullet speed on the blunderbuss is higher, that's also no longer an issue. So you can really use blunderbuss for anything you want. And that's also amazing because people use blunderbuss to kill gold skellies, which is one of the biggest reasons that people kind of get tired that, oh, you can't use blunderbuss. And now sniper can't deals less damage, so it's even worse at killing off the goldies when you don't have a way to really kill all of them in a group. So blunderbuss just capitalize over everything now. So just people are just going to use blunderbuss now, especially with the mobility that the sword provides, and because the sword is so necessary to your kit in order to survive other people using sword. Because God just does not beat sword anymore unless you have a blunderbuss. Boom, there you go. Now we've come full circle. So that's kind of the state of the balancing, I think, right now with PvP, which I think is pretty fair because pistol and sniper do have their own role. The only problem is that they just reload so fucking long that blunderbuss's sword just, it's always more reliable to just run at the enemy and hope that they miss the one shot they get every 4 seconds, unless you are literally 100% sure that they don't have a way to get to you really. Like you're on a ship and you're protecting the ship, you're like the driver or something, and you're not fighting borders or anything, then yes, maybe it's worth it. Or if you're like camping for some kind of keg out there, yes, it's worth it. But other than that, it really kind of isn't. We're just gonna make for a very funny experience in the arena if they don't rebuff the Eye of Reach and if they don't do something to the pistol. Anyway,
We've seen feedback that people also want the ability to turn off their crewmates' gamer tags, so we've added that to our list too.
crew name tags removal in the future, so not quite yet, but they're working on it. That's good. Always good if you can hide more name tags.
Our plan to reveal everything that's coming to the game that we've been working on across the whole studio and the date that we plan to bring that to players. The majority of the studio's focus is all about that mega update and all about the different areas that we're working on. You know, from arena through to pets and the new quest stuff that we're bringing to adventure. There's so much exciting things going on across the studio. It's a really exciting time. We're really looking forward to March 20th and getting to that point and showing you everything. Between now and then, kind of feedback points, bugs, combat improvements and balancing. We also plan to introduce new mercenary voyages.
Mega update is on its way, as always. We'll be waiting. Everything in between basically looks like it's going to be all quality of life, which is kind of fine. I hope the mercenary voyages get a little bit better than this last one. This last one's a little bit shallow in taste for me. I want something that encourages PvP a little bit more.
One thing that became apparent with the release of the last update, we obviously introduced a few little issues into this. That is due to the amount of changes that are going on to the core game at the moment. It's just the kind of nature of games development. When you're changing a lot of different areas of kind of the code base or of all the assets that you're working on, it just introduces risk. And so with any game updates that we're going to be putting out leading up to that kind of mega update, we just have to be really, really kind of careful and cautious and make sure we get all of the test coverage that we can and that we really use Pioneers well to ensure that we are as confident as we can before we release any update to our players. This means that we're just, with any update that we're doing, we're just making sure that the value of what we're planning to bring out is worth the kind of the risk of doing an update, the risk of releasing anything new into the world.
I'm really glad that Joe always addresses shakiness of big changes and big updates, and that the team values quality over speed much more. Because so far, whenever the update actually does arrive, it really is worth it, the wait, and it really is a good update with very few hiccups. As always, I'm very proud of Rare for all their updates. So far, still, even with this change to the guns, I still feel like every update so far throughout all of the history of Sea of Thieves of almost a year has always improved the game and never harmed the game.
You'll have seen indications of the work that is going on with changes that we're having to make to assets in the world, whether that's stuff hidden in underwater caves or those kind of gaps appearing on the front of the ship. And so those are quite noticeable and obvious kind of areas where we're making changes and things are coming. But it's also any of those issues that we introduced in the last update, we looked into those and they're all specifically related to work that is going.
I love how he mentions the changes to the ship but doesn't say a single word about fishing when he's been asked for fishing so many times. What I'm hoping is that halfway through to the mega update, they release fishing and add a mercenary voyage attached to the fishing. That would be pretty cool. And I'm sure that if they did add cooking into the game as well, where you can make edible resources that either give you double the amount of health that a banana normally would, or that allow you to regenerate health gradually over time. That this would allow for Rare to be like, okay, now that this is in the game, we can power creep a little bit and add a little more damage to the Eye of Reach and the pistol. Because if you don't add damage to the Eye of Reach and the pistol, those weapons become really not worth it. And they really aren't worth using right now. Especially because the blunderbuss has a really good reload speed as well. The reload speed really makes a big difference. So if they add resources that allow you to heal damage from that is hitting you from such a long range for much more, and make you be able to heal faster than those bullets are able to kill you if every hit hits, then it's not such a big deal if the Eye of Reach does more damage, if the reload speeds are a little faster, because then you can consume something that heals you much quicker now, so it'll make up for that power creep. Anyway, those are my speculations on what I feel like would be the best way to continue the balancing for them.
So, is there any use to use the barrel ball on the scallions?
Yes, it makes them repair slower.
Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Foxy out.
Finally back where I belong, the bit when no one watches. Cheers.